Have you ever felt like you were stuck in a relationship loop? Where some connections just feel easy, while others seem to play out the exact same challenging script over and over again? Well, today, we're going to unlock the hidden blueprint that shapes how all of us connect with others. So let's start not with some dry theory, but with a feeling. A feeling I'm pretty sure you've had. That sense of relationship deja vu, where you find yourself in a dynamic that feels uncannily familiar. Like you've been right here before. It's the big question, right? Why on earth do we get stuck in these loops? Well, it turns out there's a really fascinating reason, and it often begins with two totally different but equally powerful voices inside our heads. Maybe you know this voice, that jolt of anxiety, that gut punch of, oh no, they're pulling away. It's this urgent, almost desperate need to get reassurance to close that distance right now. Or maybe this one sounds a little more like you. That feeling of being smothered, that immediate instinct to pull back, to create some breathing room. It's an equally strong urge, just in the complete opposite direction. So what is going on here? What's driving these two conflicting reactions? The answer, believe it or not, lies in a blueprint that was drawn up for us a long, long time ago, back when we were kids. So let's dive into the science that explains these powerful and often totally unconscious patterns. And that science is called attachment theory. Here's the core idea. Our very first relationships, usually with our parents, literally create a template in our brains for what love and connection are supposed to feel like. It answers questions like, is the world a safe place? Can I count on people? This internal working model basically becomes the default operating system for all of our adult relationships. And what's so fascinating is that these childhood patterns don't just vanish. They grow up with us. They evolve, they get adult names, and they become four main attachment styles that we're about to break down right now. So let's do it. Let's take a look in the relationship mirror. Think of these four styles as the different reflections we might see, each one explaining a unique way we relate to the people we care about. Now, before we go any further, look at this. If you're thinking, I don't feel very secure, you are so not alone. While secure is the most common style, look at that. Nearly half the population has an insecure style. These are incredibly normal ways of getting through the world. Okay, first up, secure attachment. This is kind of the gold standard. It usually happens when your caregivers were pretty consistently there for you. It builds this safe base inside you, which means as an adult, you're comfortable with both getting close to someone and having your own independence. You trust that you can lean on others without totally losing who you are. And this is what that secure mindset looks like in action. See, there's no panic, there's no jumping to the worst case scenario. It's just trust, a little empathy, and a calm confidence that the connection is solid. Next up, we have the anxious style. This one often comes from having caregivers who were, inconsistent. Sometimes they were there, sometimes they weren't. Because that love and attention felt unpredictable, you learn to become hyper-aware, always scanning for signs that something's wrong, terrified of being abandoned. And there it is again, that first quote we heard. Now you can see it's not just a random thought. Nope. That is the anxious attachment system firing on all cylinders, trying desperately to get back that feeling of connection and safety. The avoidance style is pretty much the opposite. It tends to form when caregivers were emotionally distant or unavailable. So as a kid, you learn a powerful lesson. My emotional needs won't be met by others, so I better learn to meet them myself. You become fiercely self-reliant, and you often see other people's needs for closeness as being, needy. And here's our other quote. For someone with an avoidance style, a partner asking for more closeness can feel like a genuine threat, a threat to that independence you worked so hard to build. And pulling away feels like the only way to stay safe. And finally, there's the disorganized style. Now, this one is the most complex. It often comes from childhood where your caregiver was a source of comfort, but also a source of fear. And that creates this deep internal tug-of-war. You crave connection more than anything, but you're also terrified of it. It's like hitting the gas and the brake at the exact same time. This thought right here, it perfectly captures that push-pull. There's this deep desire for closeness, but it's matched by an overwhelming fear of getting hurt. It often leads to pushing people away right when things start to feel good, because that feels safer than waiting for the inevitable pain. So what happens when these different styles try to form a relationship? Well, they create some very predictable patterns. And the most common and often most challenging pairing is something called the anxious avoidant dance. Here's the fundamental problem.
The anxious person's solution to relationship anxiety is to move closer. The avoidant person's solution is to create distance. They get drawn together almost magnetically because, in a weird subconscious way, they each confirm the other's deepest fears. The avoidant proves to the anxious person that they will be abandoned, and the anxious person proves to the avoidant that partners are always way too needy. And this kicks off a really painful cycle. You can see it right here. The anxious partner pursues, which makes the avoidant partner feel overwhelmed and pull away. That withdrawal triggers the anxious partner's deepest fear of abandonment, so they pursue even harder, which, you guessed it, makes the avoidant partner withdraw even more. It's a vicious loop where each person's self-protection strategy is the other person's biggest trigger. Okay, I know this might all sound a little bleak, like we're all just doomed to repeat these patterns forever, but here is the single most important part of this whole conversation. These patterns are not your destiny. Let's talk about how to change. Now, we have to be real, these patterns are sticky. Research shows that for about 70 to 80% of us, our attachment style stays pretty stable throughout our lives. It's deeply wired in. But, and this is a really, really big but, your brain isn't set in stone. Thanks to something amazing called neuroplasticity, our brains can and do change and form new pathways our entire lives. By just becoming aware of your patterns and then having new, healthier experiences, maybe with a great partner, a good friend, or a therapist, you can literally start to build a more secure way of being in the world. So we'll leave you with this thought. Real change doesn't happen in one giant leap. It happens in tiny moments. It happens when you notice your automatic reaction and you choose, just for a second, to do something different. Maybe that's pausing before sending that fourth text. Maybe it's staying in a tough conversation for 1 minute longer than you want to. What's the one small pattern you can choose to interrupt today?